Hey you guys, I'm Brian Paul, and it's time for some more PlayStation VR breaking news. The spring sale on the PlayStation Store is coming to a close in less than a week, so if you're interested in claiming any of the deals, make sure you do so by the 28th. So which PSVR games do we recommend picking up? Well, here's a list of every PSVR game that's on sale, along with a quick rating. By now you know that Ace Combat 7 only has 3 VR-enabled missions, but those 3 missions have a ton of replayability and unlockables that you could easily spend upwards of 10 hours playing in this visually breathtaking mode. Arizona Sunshine isn't the most polished zombie shooter we've ever played, but the co-op campaign is solid and it plays great with both the aim and move controllers. If you're going to play with a friend, then pick this up for $12, but don't pay more than that. I'm all in on Arkham VR for $8. It doesn't let you drive the Batmobile or get into any fights, but it nails the detective aspect of Batman's adventures perfectly. As a launch title, it's been on sale for less, but for $8, it's still a good time. Maneuvering your pirate ship in Battle Wake is 90% of the fun, but you'll blast through the shallow campaign in a matter of hours, and multiplayer, while fun, will only keep you interested for a couple of days, which actually makes this the perfect game to pick up on sale. Box VR is getting a major overhaul soon, and anyone who owns it before the update will get 3 free months of the new premium $10 a month subscription service. So if you're interested in doing daily workouts in VR, the sale price of $12 really can't be beat, whether you ultimately decide to pay for a subscription or not. Parole and the Reaperman is a great co-op puzzle platformer that you can play by yourself or with a friend playing locally on the flat screen. That said, you've got to really enjoy the puzzle part of the puzzle platformer genre, and honestly, completing this one by yourself is nearly impossible. There's not a whole lot to create other than boxing match after boxing match in an online PvP mode. The locomotion system is silly, but the game is fun, so while we don't really recommend paying full price, $12 isn't bad. Dance Collider never really grabbed me. Competing one-on-one against AI enemies in this rhythm game attempted to bring a bit of Street Fighter into our Beat Saber, but the execution just never felt right. It gets boring fast, and a good number of the beats aren't even on rhythm. Demo isn't your typical rhythm game. For starters, 60% of it is a third-person, point-and-click puzzle adventure game that oozes style and charm, and the other 40% has you sitting at a piano as Demo, your lanky, mysterious host. It's really a must-have for anyone looking for something a little different. Dreams is the most powerful games creation toolkit ever released on a console. You can make both VR games and flat-screen games, not to mention playing the thousands of creations made by other gamers already. In VR, it's blurry on the standard PS4, much better on the Pro, and practically perfect on PS5. $5 is kind of a ridiculous price for Dirt Rally VR. It's a full-fledged racer, completely playable in VR, and when it launched, I paid $60 for the game and another $10 for the VR update. Grab this one whether you have a racing wheel or just a DualShock 4. Either way, you won't regret it. I've never watched even a single episode of Doctor Who, but Edge of Time doesn't care about that. It lets you dive right in and gives you just enough exposition to get the idea. It's not the greatest puzzle game. In fact, the puzzles can drag this game down big time, but there were just enough memorable spooky moments to keep me interested. Electronauts is a DJ booth simulator if you substituted insane laboratory experiments for turntables. There are a ton of tracks included, so if you're looking to just space out and lose yourself in VR for hours, Electronauts certainly has you covered. Despite a myriad of updates, Aspire 1 still hasn't managed to become an engaging VR stealth game. The lack of 3D audio when listening for footsteps, or even stereo audio for that matter, combined with zero consequences for not being stealthy, totally ruined this one for me. It's true that Five Nights at Freddy's is just a collection of minigames, but they're terrifying and learning to perfect each one will keep you busy for hours. But if you're going to buy this one, make sure you pick up the bundle that includes the Curse of the Dreadbear DLC for just $4 more. Some of these levels are even better than the original. Gorn is a comedic, physics-based arena fighter that's definitely fun for a while. I personally lost interest after the campaign was over, so I'm hoping for DLC with more bosses and arenas, but it's still okay as is. You've probably heard it said that PSVR support for Gran Turismo Sport is minimal, and it's true that you can't play through the whole campaign in VR, but what you can do is race almost every car in almost every track in VR against one AI or in time trial mode, making it a must-have for any racing enthusiast. Hitman 3 took a series I only had a passing interest in, and with the ability to play the whole campaign in first-person VR, turned it into a full-blown obsession. The graphics are simply stunning, and the sandbox design of each level will have you coming back over and over again, trying to take down your targets in every possible way. Job Simulator is a PSVR classic that gives you jobs to do and plenty of things to pick up, throw, and experiment with. If you have a kid in your family, or you just like goofing off in VR, then this one's probably already in your library. Killing Floor Incursion is one of the best looking games on the platform, and has some awesome zombie killing action, with a 2-player option for both Horde mode and the campaign. There are a few bugs and it can get repetitive, but at $8, it's pretty much a no-brainer. Kona has a few issues. It's blurry and has forced click turning, but it's also a full-length adventure in the vein of Twin Peaks or The X-Files, and there's really nothing else like it on PlayStation VR. It's certainly worth checking out for the $4 sale price. Conrad's Kittens isn't quite a virtual pet and isn't, well, I'm not exactly sure what it is. There's a bunch of mini games to play and a lot has been added since launch, but honestly, if you want an adorable cat game, make a Japanese account and download Nekuatsume. LA Noire The VR Case Files only contains about a third of the original game, and it has some issues with both controls and immersion, but still, it's a big open world that looks stunning, and the individual missions are a good time. As a $40 launch title, Loading Humans struggled to be a good value proposition, and as an adventure title, it's not terribly exciting. But there is something here if you're patient. Just don't spend more than the sale price of $5, or expect Chapter 2 to ever materialize. Long load times aside, Iron Man VR managed to completely wow me from the minute I stepped into the Iron Man suit. After a few tutorials, you'd be blasting around each level with style, swapping between weapons on the fly, and experiencing a pretty cool story along the way. Hovering over a virtual table to play a real-time strategy tower defense food chain management game might not sound terribly appealing, but No Heroes Allowed does it with a ton of charm. My first time through, I played for 4 hours straight, and then the next day, I went back to S-rank the game, which took another 4 hours. Highly, highly recommended. Fitness games in VR are about a dime a dozen, so it's nice when one comes along that does something different. Posing your body to fit through holes in oncoming walls is fun, and the shadow that your in-game body creates is oddly convincing. Too bad the music is bargain bin royalty-free stuff, but O-Shape is still a good time. Pistol Whip is one of the best games of the past year, so the price of $17 makes it a must-have. Plus, we've already gotten some free DLC with the Heartbreaker update and 2089, which propelled the game from great to excellent. PSVR Worlds probably should have been a demo disc instead of a $40 release at launch, but it really showed us the possibilities of our brand new headset on day one, and even now, over 4 years later, it should probably be in your collection to experience the greatness of the London Heist, which was the precursor to Blood and Truth, and to be able to put your mother in a shark cage next time she visits. The first Survios game to hit PlayStation VR, Raw Data is a first-person shooter crossed with tower defense mechanics that's all wrapped up in a neat little story about an evil corporation. There's multiple characters to play as, weapons and abilities to upgrade, and remains to this day one of Survios' best games. Resident Evil 7 on the flat screen is a fun little romp through a pretty crazy house, but Resident Evil 7 in VR is the most terrifying thing I've ever experienced in my life, and if you know anything about me, that's saying something. It's a full-fledged Resident Evil game that goes back to its survival horror roots, looks stunning, and shouldn't be played any other way. It's simply the best game on PSVR. I've tried time and time again to get into rigs over the last few years, but whenever I do, I'll play a few matches, then for whatever reason, I'll lose interest and drop out. Which is crazy because as a launch game, it allowed us to run and jump at fast speeds, not to mention compete in this new esport with other players online. So it's not for me personally, but I totally get why other gamers love this one. Ski Jumping Pro is pretty much the epitome of mobile shovelware. Don't get me wrong, it's not bad, but all you're doing is pulling off identical jump after identical jump for 90 minutes straight until you have unlocked every item and beaten the game, which you'll do on your very first try. Sprint Vector feels like a kart racer with plenty of power-ups and shortcuts, but unlike a kart racer, you'll be moving your arms and getting an insane workout when competing in 8-player online races. This is still one of Survios' best games. Superhot's time only moves when you do mechanic is pretty unique, and despite what might appear to be plain graphics and stark white environments, it's actually a really immersive, incredibly addictive game. Blasting through the campaign won't take long, but the endless modes are, not surprisingly, endlessly replayable. A Housemarque classic, Super Stardust, is a great, addictive twin-stick shooter on the flat screen, but this VR version doesn't really do anything extra to make it worth buying again. There is a first-person bonus mode included, but it's just one environment and is over in under an hour. Stick with the flat-screen version. The higher-res visuals make it much easier to play. When Rez creator Tetsuya Mizuguchi got his hands on the Tetris license, he was finally able to make the game he wanted to back when he made Luminous. The graphical effects here are mesmerizing, the soundtrack is great, the weekly rituals give you a reason to keep playing, and the connected update, which is coming to PSVR this summer, will finally add the much needed online multiplayer component. Proving that open world games are totally possible on PSVR, with graphics that look amazing on the Pro, Skyrim is, well, Skyrim, an open world RPG that gives you absolute freedom to play however you want. It's a classic that if you have or haven't played before, you need to check out in VR. I've got to admit, the Inpatient is a tricky one. On the one hand, it's only 2 hours long and requires about 5 playthroughs in order to see everything. On the other hand, despite some great moments of horror, there's just way too much downtime answering irrelevant questions that somehow determine the path of the game. If you're a horror fan, you should play it. Just keep your expectations in check. Half of Onslaught is a drawn-out campaign that doesn't do the TV show justice, while the other half is made up of fun, frantic scavenging runs through the zombie apocalypse. It's not great by any stretch of the imagination, but at this price, you could certainly do worse. How do you not already own Rush of Blood? It's been free with PlayStation Plus, and it's been on sale 100 times already. Still though, it's one of PSVR's best light gun style rail shooters, not to mention one of the best horror games on the platform. Alchemy Labs attempted to evolve the job simulator formula with this follow-up, and personally, I think they absolutely killed it. It's fun to explore Vacation Island, see what the bots need and play minigames, making this a pretty fun game for the whole family. I don't know man, Vertigo Home looks like a Windows 95 screensaver, and plays like a generic endless runner, but the music is fun, and you might get a little bit of enjoyment out of it. That said, it's totally forgettable. Horrible aesthetics are one thing, but the inconsistent physics in VR Ping Pong are simply unforgivable. The developers went back to the drawing board with VR Ping Pong Pro and managed to deliver some really nice environments, but also managed to make the physics even worse. Avoid this one at all costs. Alright you guys, it's all the breaking news I have for you today, but make sure you subscribe to the channel so you can stay up to date with all the latest PlayStation VR reviews, Let's Plays, podcasts, and of course breaking news. As always, I'm Brian Paul, and I love you all.